On day 4, we'll be looking around the Sea of Galilee. As you can see from this map, there were many small towns in Jesus' day. I'll go down to Tiberias and look at the ruins, and then come back and catch the group. We'll go from Tiberias on a boat to Naft-Gennesaret, see the Jesus boat. Go to the Mount of Beatitude, and we'll go to Tabgha, where we'll see 2 churches, and dip our toes in the Sea of Galilee. Go to Capernaum, cross the Jordan River, and drive down the east side of the Sea of Galilee until we get to En-Gedi, where we'll eat lunch. Then we'll travel down to the outflow of the Jordan River at Yardenit, and some of us will renew our baptisms before heading back to Tiberias. Let's look around Tiberias some in the early morning and see some of the ruins there. Tiberias was originally built in 21 AD by Herod Antipas. It changed hands many times during the Crusades and Arab times, and in fact the attack of Saladin upon this city precipitated the battle at the Horns of Hattin, which basically destroyed the Crusader forces. Also, this has been a holy city to the Jews for many years. The Mishnah was compiled here in 200s, and in the 4th century the Jerusalem Talmud was produced here. There are several sages who are buried in this area. We saw one of their tombs the other day.
See how the stones are put together.
It is 682 feet below sea level. Here you can see how this wall would have extended across this road. You can see the Crusader wall and tower here, and how they would have been made. A blending of the old and the new cemeteries. As you can see, the mountains around the Sea of Galilee are very high, and they have many different caves in them. New excavations have been going on at the site of Herod Antipas's Tiberias. These ruins are south of modern-day Tiberias. Should have been the main street in Tiberias. There were also others out this same morning looking over the Sea of Galilee and at the ruins. Tim and Keith went out. And this is what Tiberias would have looked like when Herod built it. Here we have one of the ancient gate towers, and down on the beach you can see how the wall extended all the way to the shore. At the modern-day hot springs, the water is somewhat hot to the touch, and since it's somewhat saline, it is carried away by channels away from the Sea of Galilee. This one's near a hotel. One last look around the mountains of the Sea of Galilee before we head out for the day. We'll head into modern Tiberias to the port, for we're about to catch a boat there in the harbor. The fishermen are having a rough time of it, it seems. And there's our boat now. Let's go on and get on board.
Yes. Watch your step as you're going down.
And now it's time to head out on our Sea of Galilee cruise. They catch us a little bit by surprise with their opening music.
some major facts about the Holy Land. And I know that he will near it. Someone said a seal violin. I love, the seal violin, okay. And the Lake Tiberias. Yeah, some of the Jewish scholars, of course, of different traditions and beliefs of the Jewish people, because after the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 78,
we ride out across the Sea of Galilee for a while on the wooden boat, and then we stop and have a time of devotions.
Okay, this is a reading from Mark chapter 5, verses 35. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with him in a boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe, and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?"
I think it's significant that in this passage, as compared to the rendition in Luke and in Matthew, it says that they were terrified in the NIV. And we oftentimes in this passage hear the devotion on, in regards to their faith. But what speaks to me today, and what seemed to be laid upon my heart last night, was the majesty of the Creator. Here we have Jesus in the front of the boat with these men. And that we've already heard from the guide already this morning that you can have 9-foot waves out here. So you can imagine in a boat that's smaller than this, or when you see the boat over at the kibbutz, just how small it is, how terrified they could possibly be. But here we have Jesus, who is the creator of all things, who simply stands up, and by his word, everything is calmed and everything is put in right. And he has that ability over all his creation, except for one creature that he created, and that's us. Because we are able to exercise free will. The thing that speaks to me about this passage and so much is our surrenderedness, our willingness to be surrendered to our Creator. He's entitled to every single aspect of our lives. Not just our Sundays, not just our Sunday evenings, not just our Wednesday night Bible studies, but our daily lives. He wants our total surrenderedness. And if he could speak to the winds and the waves and to the weather then in ways that we can't even imagine how we can control and can cause them to be subdued, but yet we resist. We tend to take those areas of our lives where we say, "Jesus, I'll handle this myself." But he wants us all. In the Wesleyan or the holiness movement, we tend to call it seeking sanctification. Total surrenderedness to God. And that's what he wants us to seek each and every day. Right?
Mount Arbel.
If it gets real, if we're in jeopardy, I'll start throwing things over like that.
Save my sweater.
Now they raise the dog over there.
Wadi Arbel is important because it's the way Jesus would have gone between Capernaum and Nazareth. He started Capernaum, go through Wadi Arbel, past the Horns of Hattin, and on to Nazareth. As we get ready to dock, up on the hill is the Mount of Beatitudes. We'll be there later. Right now we're headed to Nof Ginnasar to see the Jesus boat. But first we're going to do a little bit of shopping. Deborah's buying a talit. During a drought in 1968, a boat was found in Magdala. It took 11 days to excavate it. It was 26.9 feet long and took 11 years to get it ready so it could go to exhibition. It was a boat that was very special, for they knew it was old. It was made out of pegged and mortise and tenon construction. The shell was built first, and it was repaired many times with over 12 different types of wood. It was estimated that a crew of 12 would have used this boat. Let's listen to Luke chapter 5 as we look at the boat from various angles.
And he sat down and taught the people out of the ship. Now when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon,
Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught.
And Simon answering said unto him,
Master, we have toiled all the night and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net.
And when they had this done, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake. And they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. And they came and filled both the ships, so that they began to sink.
Around the Sea of Galilee, we'll see many banana plantations. We'll also be seeing the Galilee from many different angles.
It's a nice walk from the northern shores of the Sea of Galilee. Tiberias, getting the stones from here. So that's why
we are headed to the Mount of Beatitudes to look at the place where Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount.
You can fit easily thousands of people. And that's where the Sermon on the Mount took place.
Let's listen to Matthew chapter 5 as we look around.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely, for my sake. Rejoice, and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
This is Capernaum from the church. Then we head back out of the mountains toward the Sea of Galilee to visit Tabgha, where the Church of the Multiplications is, where he fed the 5,000.
You enter always into a garden. What do we see? A beautiful olive tree. We see the water coming out of the fish. And we see the mikveh. Yeah? So to remind us that they were using immersion bath or ritual bath, which we call the mikveh. So you have the 7 steps down, 7 steps up. Of course you collect the water from rainwater only. Now we see 7 fishes coming out from the roots of the tree of life. Okay? Why? Also to commemorate the miracle of the multiplication. From 5 loaves and 2 fishes, Jesus fed the 5,000. Not only that, on the inner part of the church you will see remnants of the altar of Joseph of Tiberias underneath the glass. And you will see
the mosaics have a Nile theme, with all the birds being from the Nile River Valley, and also a Nileometer measuring the depth of the water. So the artist was probably from Egypt. As we look around the church some more, let's listen to Matthew chapter 14 about the feeding of the 5,000.
And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying,
This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals.
But Jesus said unto them,
They need not depart. Give ye them to eat.
And they say unto him,
We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes.
He said,
Bring them hither to me.
And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed, and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat, and were filled. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, beside women and children.
Our next church will be the primacy of Peter. Here we can see one of the 7 springs of Heptapagon, which Tabgha is named after. This is to mark the place where Jesus appeared to the apostles who had gone fishing after his resurrection. Jesus restores Peter by asking him 3 times, If you love me, feed my sheep. Let's listen to part of that story found in John chapter 21 as we look around and dip our toes in the Sea of Galilee.
Simon Peter saith unto them,
I go a-fishing.
They say unto him,
We also go with thee.
They went forth and entered into a ship immediately, and that night they caught nothing. But when the morning was now come, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples knew not that it was Jesus. Then Jesus saith unto them,
Children, have ye any meat?
They answered him,
No!
And he said unto them,
Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and ye shall find.
They cast therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for the multitude of fishes. Therefore that disciple whom Jesus loved saith unto Peter,
It is the Lord!
Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he girt his fisher's coat unto him, for he was naked, and did cast himself into the sea. And the other disciples came in a little ship, for they were not far from land, but as it were 200 cubits, dragging the net with fishes. As soon then as they were come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid thereon, and bread. Jesus saith unto them,
Bring of the fish which ye have now caught.
Simon Peter went up and drew the net to land full of great fishes, 153. And for all there were so many, yet was not the net broken. Jesus saith unto them,
Come and dine.
And none of the disciples durst ask him, Who art thou? Knowing that it was the Lord. Jesus then cometh and taketh bread, and giveth them, and fish likewise. This is now the 3rd time that Jesus showed himself to his disciples.
Here they are in the cool breeze. That's Deborah back there for hand up. You can see Andy. Now we head out along the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee, seeing more bananas.
So you have a lot of banana plantations.
As we reach Capernaum, the wind starts to pick up and the sea starts to whitecap. To put things in perspective, here's Capernaum, here's the Mount of Beatitudes, and here's Tabgha. Capernaum literally means Kepher Nahum, the village of Nahum. There remains here from about 500 BC to 1000 AD. An earthquake hit here in 4th century and destroyed most of it. In 782, another one destroyed the rest. Our first stop will be Peter's home, set over by the new church, but it's very hard to understand what you're seeing. I think a few aerial photographs will help. Here is the site we're looking at before the church was put over it. If you notice, all around, as far as you can see, are many different ruins that have not even been excavated yet. As you zoom in, you can see the ruins of the octagonal church foundations. It was built to single out one particular room. The original house during the time of Jesus would have looked like this, with this being a reconstruction. Later, a particular room was added on and doubled in size to be used as a worship center, and then an octagonal church was built over the top of it, and now the modern-day church is there. All of this was to pick out one particular room that is thought to be the one where Peter and maybe Jesus also lived. It's a little bit easier to see what a house would have looked like in Jesus' time without all the construction over the top of it. Here is an insula house. It would have been a square block surrounded by walls with courtyards and rooms in it. An extended family of uncles and aunts and grandparents would live here. You can see the door here going into a room where people would have lived. You can see the courtyards in various places here. As you look at this entire structure, it would have been a large area. And you can see here the many rooms and the steps up to the top. This would have been a 2-story building with the stone here at top as a rolling stone to pack the earth down on the roof. And here's a window between rooms. You can see what the flooring would have looked like also here. The white synagogue of today is from the 3rd century. Underneath it is the black foundations of the old synagogue from Jesus' time. And this is what it might have looked like. Let's look around the ruins some. And this is what it might have looked like as it was in Jesus' day. As we look around, let's listen to Mark chapter 1 about a healing that happened here.
And they went into Capernaum, and straightway on the Sabbath day he entered into the synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority, and not as the scribes. And there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying,
Let us alone. What have we to do with thee, thou Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee who thou art, the Holy One of God.
And Jesus rebuked him, saying,
Hold thy peace and come out of him.
And when the unclean spirit had torn him, and cried with a loud voice, he came out of him. And they were all amazed, insomuch that they questioned among themselves, saying,
What thing is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority commandeth he even the unclean spirits, and they do obey him.
And immediately his fame spread abroad throughout all the region round about Galilee.
The main reason for being in the new church is to look down through the glass at the remnants of the old building. This is a look over the fence at the Greek Orthodox side, which also contains ruins of houses and other things. We now leave the church, and this is what Capernaum might have looked like in the time of Jesus as a reconstruction. The wind is really blowing through the palm trees as we leave Capernaum and head out around the Sea of Galilee.
And also here on the
We
right
then
side,
cross
you'll
the
see
Jordan River as it's almost dried up due to the drought.
going into the Sea of Galilee. Yes, a little bit of fire.
During a normal year, this is what it would look like as it flowed into the Sea of Galilee.
The land of the Gergesenians, the land of the Gentiles. Also remembering, somebody asked me the story with the swine. You know, the man, when he was asked about his name, he said, my name is Legion.
As we travel through this area, we're now in the Golan Heights area, and you can see this reminder of the wars that have been fought here. Let's look at the terrain a little bit. We now drive past the site of Kursi. We don't have time to stop here, but this is the place we remember when Jesus came to the land of the Gergesenes and cast the demons out of the man into the swine, which ran down and drowned themselves. The little chapel on the hill was built during Byzantine times to commemorate this, and below it was a Byzantine monastery. We continue to drive along the east side of the Sea of Galilee, with the Golan Heights to our left and the Sea of Galilee to our right. We now come to Kibbutz En-Gev, one of the oldest kibbutzes in the country. Up until 1967, it could only be accessed by the Sea of Galilee, since the Syrians controlled the Golan Heights. Every once in a while, they'd lob a shell down just to see Israelis run. Now it has a dairy operation and also a nautical operation. They ran the boats that we were on earlier today, and also all the fishing boats that go out on the Sea of Galilee. We're going to be eating at their restaurant and eat St. Peter's fish. It's called St. Peter's fish because they're mouth breeders. The male fish carries the eggs and young around until they are mature. This is the fish probably Peter found the coin in. Why don't we listen to the story in Matthew chapter 17 about fishing?
And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said,
Doth not your master pay tribute?
He saith,
Yes.
And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, saying,
What thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children, or of strangers?
Peter saith unto him,
Of strangers.
Jesus saith unto him,
Then are the children free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea and cast an hook, and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. That take, and give unto them for me and thee.
These are some of the commercial fishing boats that En-Gev uses to catch their fish, and also you can see the boats that we would have ridden on. As we get back on the bus, we head south. We pass Hippus or Suzita. This was where one of the cities of Decapolis was. Ruins there date from the 1st century BC to the 1st century AD. Temples on top of this could be seen all the way across the sea from Tiberias. Mainly it's just ruins now, not much excavation has been done, and as you can see from the columns lying down, it was destroyed by an earthquake. This still is the Golan Heights, just beyond the banana fields. We then reach the southern end of the Sea of Galilee and the exit of the Jordan River. We'll follow the Jordan River south for a ways to Yardenit, which is a baptismal place. It is not where Jesus was baptized, that's much further south, but it's a place that we can remember our baptism in the Jordan River. The Jordan River is not a very big river. In fact, it's a rather small stream. And right now they're not releasing much water because they don't want to waste their fresh water for the country. There's also wildlife here, and we saw muskrats. They have built a special area here just for baptizing people, and many remember their baptisms here by being rebaptized. As we watch people being baptized, let us remember Jesus' baptism, as listed in Matthew chapter 3.
Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying,
I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me?
And Jesus answering said unto him,
Suffer it to be so now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness.
Then he suffered him. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water. And lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying,
This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased.
We now return to Tiberias in our hotel and go out on the balcony. Boy, the wind is really whipping the flag right now. But again, there are many boats and ships as we watch the sun go down over Tiberias and the Sea of Galilee for the last time. As the haze clears some, there on the horizon, in the haze, is Mount Hermon, the northern portion of the Israel. And as the sun starts to set in the west over Tiberias, we sit here together for our last time to watch this happen, and the end of day 4 has come.